Hello everyone and welcome to your next video all about science and our topic of learning about animals. So far we have talked about mammals and we've talked about reptiles. See if you could remember the features of a mammal. Well done if you said they're warm-blooded, they give birth to their young, and they feed their young milk, and they have fur or hair. Now, what about a reptile? What are the features of the reptile? Have a think. Super, if you said they were cold-blooded, they have scales, they lay eggs, and they eat meat. They're carnivores. Now, next week, or this week, if you're watching this, we are going to be learning the next three groups of animals. We're going to look at birds, fish, and amphibians. So let's have a look. So here we have, we're going to look at the features of a bird and also think about relating to last term, we talked about our senses, and think about using your ears to hear, if you can hear any birds when you're outside, walking to school or walking home, or your sense of sight to see the birds as they are in our environment. So how can we tell an animal is a bird? So first, they have feathers and wings. So here we have a beautiful parrot that has feathers and wings. They are warm-blooded, just like mammals, they are warm-blooded. They lay eggs. So usually a bird will make a nest, or like a penguin, they will keep the egg with them and they will lay eggs. Now, let's have a look at some different birds. Have you seen these before? We have a blackbird, a crow, and a magpie. Now, I definitely know that we have seen these three out in our playground. So have a look when you're walking to school or when you're outside. See if you can use your sense of hearing to hear any birds, your sense of sight to see any birds, and check out that they have their wings and feathers. Now, we won't be seeing any eggs because birds usually lay their eggs in the springtime, but have a look for birds. Also, have a look to see if you can go on a bird hunt. We'll be doing some of this in free flow, and you can have a look and maybe write a list of any birds that you see in your area. Now, the next thing we're going to learn about is fish. Now, fish are similar to other types of animals in the way that they lay eggs, and they are also cold-blooded. But fish, they breathe underwater using their gills, and they have scales and they have fins, but their scales are wet, and their fins are what help them move through the water. So they don't have legs, they have fins. So the features of a fish are they lay eggs, they are cold-blooded, they breathe underwater, and they have scales and fins. Well done. So here is a detail of a fish. So they have their fins, their tail, their gills to help them breathe, and they also have an eyes and a mouth. Now, what about our last category? The third one is an amphibian. Amphibian. Now, can we see the difference between an animal that's an amphibian and a reptile? There's a video below if you'd like to copy that link down that you can watch. But what do we know? I know we've talked a lot about the features of reptiles, but what do we know about amphibians? Now, so an amphibian is an animal that also lays eggs, but they usually lay their eggs more kind of in a big group, and there's lots of them. And sometimes they're more like kind of in a gel and they're in an area. An amphibian can live underwater and on land. And so they have, their skin is wet and slimy. So if you were to touch a frog would be more wet and more slimy than, say, a crocodile who would have dry scales. Another thing is that an amphibian has webbed feet to help them in the water, whereas reptiles don't. They go in water as well, but they don't have the webbed feet that a reptile does. Now, a reptile also can breathe underwater. Sorry, an amphibian can also breathe underwater, which a reptile can't. So if we look at the main differences, let me share my screen at the other slide. Here we go. If we look here, we've got, so an amphibian lays many eggs. They are cold-blooded. They are born in the water. They breathe with their gills and lungs, whereas a reptile just has lungs. They have webbed feet and live on land and water. So here we have frogs, toads, and we have a salamander. So the main difference is they are wet to touch and kind of slimy. They breathe with their gills underwater, and they have webbed feet. Now, I hope you've enjoyed learning about these 5 different groups of animals. And what we are going to be doing over the next couple weeks is sorting them and writing the features about them and learning lots of facts about each of them, as well as continuing to look at the enormous crocodile and finding out some more facts about crocodiles that we can use in our writing to make fact files, and also that we can use in our writing for writing to make our writing a lot more exciting. So I hope you've enjoyed learning about birds, fish, and amphibians, and you will be top-notch when we do it in our science lessons next week. Thank you. Bye.